we all expect things to be desktop, but the reality is more and more people expect things to be mobile. So I think as an industry, we need to focus on delivering amazing experiences to people on the device that everyone has in the palm of their hand.
This is Velocitize Talks, and I'm Eric Jones. I'm here with Al Cattell, the Director of Platform and Innovations at Candyspace. Al, good to have you.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about Candyspace and your unique value proposition in the marketplace.
So Candyspace comes from a background of really being a sort of a technical marketing digital agency. So we would be trying to push the boundaries about delivering marketing executions on the web. That was through the use of innovative in-display advertising games through to, interactive digital out-of-home screens. And what we've found in recent years that's really blended us into a world where we deliver more and more digital products for companies. So I think that native, heritage we have of being creative and technology has led us to a place now where people want that when they're building their digital products. So we've kind of morphed these days into more of a platform development company where we're building websites, apps for internal, external, B2C, B2B, but certainly this very consumer-focused digital product development company.
We were just talking about, websites and native apps and progressive web apps and all these things, and the pendulum seems to shift back and forth. Where are we today with, sort of what consumers really want?
What consumers want is interesting. I think it's what consumers want is fast access to information, content, shopping in the palm of their hand. So I think the mobile is the device that everyone has in their pocket is superseding everything. You see it in China, India, South America, where there was no desktop paradigm. It was just, everything's gone straight to mobile. Whereas we still in Europe and North America have a legacy of, we all expect things to be desktop, but the reality is more and more people expect things to be mobile. So I think as an industry, we need to focus on delivering amazing experiences to people on the device that everyone has in the palm of their hand. Whether it's a website, whether it's a PWA, it depends on the use case, but I think more and more at the high end, you'll have people delivering entertainment such as a Netflix or something like that, where they need a native app, or a high e-commerce brand, they'll have a native app. But more and more actually you can get people great experiences with HTML5, progressive web apps with some offline storage that does exactly what consumers need them to do.
Do you find any generational differences in terms of, building user experiences? Like, let's say, a brand comes to you and says, hey, our target demographic, is Gen Z. Do you think about things differently from a user experience perspective in that regard? I
think you can, not necessarily. The user experience is fundamentally true no matter who the persona is, in terms of we need to get people to action what they need to do quickly. And that means you need to optimize around user journeys. So maybe you design based on the user path now, whereas 10 years ago you'd think about information architecture and what content we need on our website. Now you think about what's the job that needs to be done. And that's true across any demographic. I think for a younger demographic now, though, there is this element of things needing to be a bit more entertaining and engaging. So if you put Facebook in front of a 16-year-old, it's text and images on a page. It's not it's not fun. People are confused. Why would I even spend time on this platform? Whereas, so there's that element where younger audiences need something that's a little bit more, they're digital native. They need something in their user experience which is more of an entertaining, highly polished kind of experience. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense.
No, absolutely. Versus older generations where you probably lead with the information first.
Yeah, that's right, because they've grown up expecting things to work in a certain way. So people are probably used to hamburger menus on mobile now, but certainly we don't tell people that's a menu. You expect people will know that. And I think that's an example of a learned behavior about interface design. So older audiences who have spent more time, and desktop was where they've spent their digital life for 20, 30 years, they will probably feel much more comfortable in that environment. And you kind of have to plan for that. So if if you know you're planning on a particular product, it might be a holiday type product for an older demographic, then you probably do want to lean into some of the more older established interface design paradigms.
So talk about, planning for the future. How are you thinking about, the user experience in a voice world?
So voice is often, at the moment, everyone's thinking about voice in a really developer sense. So, it's about AI, how smart is Alexa or Siri or Google. But really voice is a creative challenge. I think voice is it's a problem with the fact that we use our voices to talk to each other, but we also have our eyes to gauge what's being understood. So you have this feedback loop. Whereas with voice, we expect a level of just out-of-the-box capability that I think, they struggle with. So, Amazon Voice Assistant is great, but as soon as you start getting to the boundaries of where it's great, it all starts falling apart and frustration sets in. So I think whilst there's a technical challenge around the improvement of the AI to know what's going on and to get the right answer, actually the real challenge of making voice work is to design conversations in a way that works. And so I think there's still a lot of learnings that will come as people get better at designing voice interfaces. But as soon as we have, as the community, as the public, as soon as we have voice control in our televisions and in our cars, and it becomes really normal to say to the TV, change a channel, then suddenly there will be this pop in society where people get that you can use your voice to interact. And I would say that's only a 5-year time change. And at that point, there will be this massive expectation that you can talk to things and it won't be weird. So we've got that sort of time frame, I think, to work out how to design these things.
Mm-hmm. What do you think the website itself looks like in that type of context?
So, we can talk to Google on our phones at the moment, but I don't think many people do. I don't know the stats to that. I could be wrong, but you don't see people walking down the street talking to ask directions to an address. They will still type it in. So there's this weird vibe in there. But I think in the longer term, you might expect to have a voice interface on a site. But it will be, I don't know, I can see voice interface being more useful on more application-led things. It'd be great, this is not quite an answer to your question, it'd be great if you're a website designer, and you could just say, okay, import this library, and you don't have to click and do all that stuff. The application does it. And that's a really good use case, I think, of voice in design sense. How that will flow into an e-commerce site, a holiday site, it's hard to know, to be fair.
Mm-hmm. Could you share your opinion about how you see things like blockchain playing in a digital experience world?
So I think there's a lot of hype at the moment around blockchain, which is going to cause a bit of a problem for people's general adoption and perception of it. But longer term, the idea of having a decentralized internet, the internet is meant to be decentralized. But what we've ended up with is a very centralized set of players in Facebook, Google, etc. So I think there's a definite path to building applications, in a decentralized way, giving people control of their privacy in a way that will really fundamentally change some of the ways we think about using, services like Facebook or that sort of thing. But today, I think it's quite hard to make a real clear bet on, it's very early in the time at the moment. So if there's a good use case for having something decentralized, then it should be looked at. But equally, most people, it's not in a level of, most companies don't think about it from a digital experience perspective. So it's still in a very nascent stage, I think. But in time, it will change the way we use a lot of things. But it's a long way away.
Right. We can learn so much from client RFPs in terms of what they actually want.
Yeah.
How have you seen that progress over the last 2-3 years?
Or the last 2-3 years, I mean, slightly longer term maybe than that, it's certainly been a shift of ownership of digital from IT to marketing or comms. So that's been a real fundamental shift in businesses. So, you used to go and talk to people about their website or that sort of thing in a way that was, IT were very heavily involved in that process. And really they're just sometimes they're not even involved at all, to be fair, because you've got cloud deployment, the people who control it, it doesn't really need to fit in. Maybe you need some integration or something like that. So in the last few years, I think there is a definite uptick in people's recognition of user experience making a successful digital experience. So good RFPs, I would say, are people who have put a lot of thought into personas and use cases and looking at things from a customer point of view first. Whereas, more traditional RFPs might be like, okay, here's our business. We've got Salesforce, we've got, we need a new CMS, we need, to integrate with this database or whatever it might be. And they look at it from their own point of view. And I think we're seeing more RFPs where people are trying to describe the needs coming from the other way, which is this is what our customers need, and be a bit more, and define requirements based on those. So, and there's a massive growth in just user experience as a concept. Maybe it's almost overinflated. I don't know. Then it's pretty hard to hire a good user experience person at the moment. But definitely that's a big trend.
Right. One of the questions we love asking is a book that you'd like to recommend to our viewers.
There's one. It's a very old advertising book called Breakthrough Advertising. It's essentially a copywriting book from the 60s, I think. But essentially it lays out sort of 6 different approaches to copywriting based on your audience's understanding of their problems and your business. And that actually transcends copywriting into thinking about business. When you're going out to pitch something, when you're sort of presenting who you are for your USP, when you're trying to understand opportunities in a market, there's sort of the first, half of the book is an excellent way to start thinking about markets, marketplaces, and opportunities and that sort of thing. So yeah, Breakthrough Advertising by John Schultz, I'm going to say, but I don't know his first name. But yeah.
Nice. Thanks, Al.
All right.
That was Al Cattell, the Director of Platform and Innovations at Candyspace.